Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today we're going to cover a subject that I've had a lot of questions about and about what I use in order to make this happen, and those are backups. Now backups are probably the most important job an IT manager has, is keeping the customer's data safe, off-site, and in a good location in case something catastrophic were to happen to a building. Because I guarantee if your building were to burn down on April 14th, IRS comes around on April 15th, they don't care. They just don't care. They want your tax returns. They want them filed in a timely manner. So it's always good, when you're responsible for a customer or client site, or even your own home site, is to have a good data backup. I'm not a big fan of the cloud, as you know, and I especially don't trust my data to the cloud. And a lot of ISPs now with bandwidth caps and that kind of thing, and the real slow nature of speed increases on the internet, with the exception of Google Fiber and my electric company here, where I have gigabit out in the country. Meanwhile, in San Antonio, most of my customers can only get about 100 down by 10 meg up. That's usually the fastest they can get in the city. Google Fiber is currently rolling it out, but still, when you're talking about backing up terabytes and terabytes of data, of customers' data, even small businesses, they accumulate and make a lot of data. So one of the biggest jobs I have is managing that data, archival data, keeping things straight. And backups are one of those. Backups are the key. If you do nothing else in your IT career, make sure you do backups of customer data, because you don't want them coming back to you later and going, what happened to my data? Because hard drives fail. RAID, these NAS devices, there are no excuse. Free NAS, any of those unrated, they are no excuse for not having backups on hand, because one of the things that can happen if an array were to crash on you, keep in mind all those hard drives are pretty much the same age, right? So if one fails, you take that drive out, you put a new one in, it stresses the remaining drives because they have to rebuild the parity on that one drive, and they could fail as well. So always keep that in mind. You always need to have a good backup. It's just damn good practice. And you need to have a backup in your home as well. If you do a lot of video editing, if you do a lot of whatever it is you do, you need to back up your data. If you have a small amount of data, back it up to the cloud is fine. I'm not opposed to that. But I don't want to give these companies my data. Even though I can encrypt it, but I'm not comfortable sharing my data. I have nothing to hide, but a lot of my information is private about my clients, and I don't want to share that with anybody. So I'm going to show you in this video today what I use at my client sites now, my new paradigm, the new paradigm I'm using. And basically, I'm using the same thing here at my home office. So let's get into that video right now. Now I've got a really weird style of editing videos. I'm going to actually play the Canon camera footage that I took without any dialogue, and I'm going to do the dialogue after the fact. But what's really weird is I play this through Windows Media Player, capture it in OBS, create a file in OBS, and then import that into Adobe Premiere. But it's what works for me. I'm an old guy, leave me alone, okay? It's what works for me. So what we have here is a StarTech 3.5-inch trayless hot swap tray. I find these things work really well, and I'm about to put it into a machine. What we do is we custom build a machine for our clients with managed support. That is a machine that is dedicated to, or I should say is dedicated for my company to use when getting in remotely. So this is what I use, is the StarTech trayless hot swappable 3.5-inch serial ATA mobile rack. Now this is an old, I think it's I forgot the brand name of the case, but it's an old case. It does well. And what I've decided to do is take those AMD motherboards. I have those two old AMD 635 Athlon 2 635 or AM4 processors, whatever the hell they were. and I've decided to go ahead and put them inside of a machine. I've got 2 clients right now that I'm getting ready to do this installation on. So this is just a machine I built for that purpose, and I'm kind of moving it around here on the desktop just to show you. There's the AMD Athlon. It's an MSI motherboard. Pardon the poor focus work. But anyway, there's the unit. It's got a spinning 500 gig hard drive in it, and then we'll put the and the wires are a mess. They all get cleaned up before I put all this together. But this is on the bench and getting ready to be tested for the customer. And I get ready to put this this drive tray in as we speak. And that will hold the external hard drives. Usually what I do is I get 4 terabyte hard drives or 4 2 terabyte hard drives, depending on how much data the customer has. And then we put them on a rotating schedule so that we always have some good backups on hand. So I just wanted to show you the process it took to build a machine like that. And here's the other one that we configured for another client. I've got 2 of these getting installed this week. And I remembered the name of that case. It's an Alaska case, and you can see it's still got a removable. I know it's a white case with a black drive, but this is going to be where the customer can't see it. They don't really care what color the PC is, just that it works. So that's another one going out to a client. Now this video is of the other MSI board I have. Give you an example. There's the back plate on it, and then here is that MSI. I think it's a 7596 or 7850. I forget. It's the E65 series AMD Athlon processor, X4 635 processor. This unit happens to have 8 gig of RAM that I had laying around. It's been tested. 785 GM-E65 motherboard is the one I'm using in these 2 units that I'm building, and this gives you an idea of the back plane on that. It's got FireWire, it's got sound, it's got everything. So these are good little boards. They're capable of running Windows 10 pretty speedy, and then I can load whatever other utilities I need on those machines. So this is another case I had sitting around. It's a nice little mini ITX or case, and this thing's years old, and I cleaned it up really good, and we're about to mount that AMD motherboard in this thing, get it all hooked up, and get Windows 10 installed on it and get it ready for the client. So it's an old case, got a good power supply in it, just big enough for that AMD Athlon motherboard, and so that's what we're going to do, is we're going to build this out, put that motherboard and the components in it. So here we go, the motherboard's installed. I've got my cables all tied up. My hard drive is in there. It's a spinning 500 gigabyte Seagate hard drive, or I'm sorry, Western Digital. Everything's hooked up, ready to go. We're getting Windows installed on that, and getting ready to get it configured and taken to the client. And here's a view of the front of the unit after we get the hot swappable tray installed. Got everything hooked up and running. And the beauty of using Windows 10, you can do it on Windows 7. It was a little trickier. But Windows 10, you can flag a hard drive as hot swappable to where you don't have to click on the eject before you remove a hard drive. And usually I'm the one maintaining these backup drives, not the client. But we do that so we can tell them, okay, go in there and pop this drive tray open, and then do a 30 count and take out the hard drive, and then slide the new one in and close the door. And we try to keep it as simple as we can for our clients. And again, I am the king of cheap, so I reuse. I paid a lot of money for some of these hardware and cases as time has gone on. So that case right there is probably 8 to 10 years old, but as you can see, it's still good enough for what I need it to. And this was, I think it was a Pentium Core 2 Duo was the original motherboard in here, an Intel motherboard. And of course, we've got the AMD one in there now. But you can see how easy it is for these trays. You just basically will stick your finger in and pull the lever to the side and pop the hard drive out. Wait for it to stop spinning, of course. Give it a few moments, remove the hard drive, and then put the new one in, and it couldn't be easier for the customers. We try to keep it as simple as possible. Now this is a unit that will be on a desk, one of the desks that I have at my client site, so I'll be the one taking the hard drive in and out of this unit. But that just gives you an idea of the kind of finished end product that we use for our customers for backup and remote maintenance and monitoring server or workstation. And thanks to generous donations of our subscribers, this is one of 2 Seagate 4 terabyte drives that I was able to pick up on Amazon for our internal network for backups. I already have 2 terabyte drives to do the backups onto, but I was running out of space on those, so went ahead and got a couple of Seagate 4 terabytes. And forgive the horrible camera work on here, I was trying to focus. That's a Cavalry USB 3 external drive caddy, and that's what I put that drive into there, and I do backups onto that drive for my office network. So all of my data gets put onto there, and makes it really easy to do backups. And basically, you just you take the drive off the desk, you stick it into the external drive housing, and make sure it's secure, and then power it on. Now, I had purchased, and you wait for the green light to come on next to the blue one. Now, I had initially purchased one of those internal drive caddies, but I like the front of my workstation so well, I didn't want to mess it up with a drive caddy. So I just opted to use, and now you can see the operating system sees the backup drive. So now we can do what we need to. But that's how easy it is to do. And I prefer an external caddy, that way if I need to get customer data or something like that. So it has multiple uses, but that's what we were able to get with those donations. So thanks again for the kind donation of those hard drives. So a bit of a disclaimer here: I am in no way is this video being sponsored by anybody other than my subscribers who have donated the money to get some new hard drives in here, so I can have backup drives, larger backup drives. Before, I was having to back up on multiple 2 terabyte drives and then take them over to my brother's house so that my data was secure. Now I've been able, through your generous contributions, I've been able to get a couple of Seagate Barracuda 4 terabyte drives. I like Seagate drives. If you like Western Digital, that's fine. We're not going to get into that debate. But I'm going to show you the software I use to do my backups for both my clients and for my home users. Or for my home office users, which I am one. You just saw that some camera footage on that unit back there. That's getting ready to go to a client site this week. Typically what I do with my clients is I provide a workstation that I call their IT machine. And that is a workstation that's dedicated to me. It has all the software on there I need to do my work. And then I put the backup software on that workstation. All my networks are 1 gigabit. Or 1 or 10 gigabit networks, so plenty of bandwidth to do backups on them. And most of my clients have less than 4 terabytes of data that needs to be backed up. So what I do is I do the same for them I do for me. I get I get 3 or 4 terabyte drives that I can swap out. I do full backups, and then I do incremental backups after that. It works well. So the software I prefer to use is EaseUS to do backup. And I'm not talking about the free one. I'm talking about, they call this their enterprise version of their backup software. It's actually the EaseUS workstation backup. I think it runs $39 or $59. I'll tell you what, let's find out. I'm going to bring up To Do Backup Workstation, which, let me show you that. See if I can get that up there. This is the one I use, To Do Backup Workstation 10.5. It's only $39. It's a really good. They give you a 30-day trial. You can go out there and try it yourself, but it works really well. And you know, like I say, what you're looking to do is protect the customer's data. So I have the trial version running here. Let me switch over to that. Minimize that. So I have the trial version up and running here, and here's what it looks like. And I've already got some backups set up here, and I'll go through and tell you what they are. So this is the name of my computer here. So the first thing I did was a full system backup when I got my new Ryzen machine up and running. So that's a backup on that drive. Then I have my music and photos, my Unky Joe's Playhouse videos, my applications like, my various versions of Windows that I use, my Windows Server, tech vids. It's stuff I've done over the years, research on videos. M&YT, what is M&YT? That's music and YouTube videos, music videos and YouTube videos. And then I don't back up all my videos on my for my Plex, because that's always a work in progress. We change out movies on that all the time, and it's a trivial thing to have to re-rip a movie if I get one that gets lost. So I don't focus on backing up that data. But the TV shows are kind of a pain in the butt to rip and get them labeled properly, so I choose to do a backup of that as well. Let me expand this out here a little bit. Okay. But let me bring up my G drive here, because that is where the backups are, is on my G drive. So here's my G drive, and it creates a folder called My Backups. And then, so here are all my backups, and it basically creates a compressed backup. Now I could right click on that, and I can open that backup right from here. And all my files are there, and I can view them just like I normally would. That's one of the reasons I like that I really like this backup program, because it doesn't put them in some weird proprietary format. As long as you've got 7-zip or a good zip program, you can go back in and you can look inside of any of these backups and see what all is out there. So these backups are already there. So what I do is I do a full backup, right? And then if any files change, once a week I can do what's called an incremental backup. So let me show you an incremental. I'll go to Applications. If you right click on it, I can go to Backup. I know I've done a full backup, so if I queue an incremental backup, it's as simple as doing that. And it's going to go out and it's going to find out any files under Applications that have changed since the last full backup. And I think you can double click and you can monitor its progress, which is what I've done here. And it sees the full backup image was done on 11/14, and then it'll give you some backup details here. It doesn't actually tell you any of the files it's backing up here, but it does give you an estimated time of arrival, etc. So we'll let that run. Now what I want to do is create a new task and show you how easy this is. So I come here to New Task, and you got some choices here. Now keep in mind this is the trial version, so it's going to allow me to back up my mail server, my Exchange database, any Exchange mail, or a SQL database if I need it. That's for the full enterprise backup. I'm only going to get the workstation backup, so I think it comes with disk and volume and file. And you would think disk volume is where you want to go, but that's not the case. Where you want to go is to file. Now this only works if you have your, well, I won't say that. It'll also work on network drives as well. I could come through here and pick my server and do a backup this way. It's going to prompt me for my username and password. Let me put that in off screen. So now you can see my MCS NAS, so I could select any one of those folders. But what I do instead is I come up here to my PC and I deselect everything. And since I have my drive letters mapped, I just come down here and choose what I want to back up. So if I wanted to just back up my music, I could select that here. I tell it very simply what destination I want to use. And then after I select my destination, pardon me, I'm moving my OBS Studio around, and after I choose my destination, I can give it a name and a description. I can do an automatic backup. I could schedule it right here. This is the scheduling software they have. Hold on. So I could do it once, I could do it daily, weekly, monthly, or upon another event. So, anytime a user logged on or logged off, or the USB device was plugged in, etc., I can change it once a day only, the backup type I want to do, etc. And then you have some let's see here, backup scheme custom, and then you have backup options, so you can set your compression, the priority, backup splitting, about how what backup splitting you want to use, if you were using CDs or DVDs or Blu-rays for that matter. So if you want to encrypt the backup, you have that ability. You have email notifications, so you can email people when the backups are completed. So, for example, like my clients, they get a daily report of their server every morning. So the CEO of the company comes in, he's got an email that says, "Oh, everything worked, the backups went off, backups were successful." So not only does he hear it from me or she, but they get an email that says, "Hey, yeah, the backups are going off and they were successful." Then you can run pre or post custom commands. If you want to keep an offsite copy to an FTP site, you can do that. That's a neat feature. The backup mode, you can do sector by sector, preserve file security settings and backup. That's important, especially if you're on an Active Directory network. And then if I had SQL backup, I could choose one of those two options there. And then I can do file filtering as well. So I'll just go ahead and I'm going to save this as just my music backup. So I'll tell it proceed. Now it shouldn't run. You notice my applications is running. This one is waiting, but I'm going to cancel the task because I don't want it to run automatically. And it'll tell you no backup, so and failed because it hasn't completed. So we'll let the application's backup continue to run, and we'll come back when that's complete. Alright, so the incremental backup completed. So now if I were to double click on this backup and go over here to, let me bring that onto the screen and go to backup images, you'll see I have a full backup and then I have an incremental backup as of today. So I'm going to close that, and then let's bring up the actual hard drive right here. So you'll see I have a full backup here, and then you'll see I have an incremental here. So if I were to double click on this backup, you can see what you can go out here and see any additional files it's downloaded or updated the backup with. So that typically you do a full backup, once a month, once a week, whatever schedule you determine works best for you. And then you can either do a daily incremental or you can do a weekly incremental backup. If you don't have a lot of data that changes, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. The beauty of using a NAS like the Exponology or the Synology NAS is you also have recycle bins on there. You also have, you can do what are called shadow copies of data, that kind of thing. So this just kind of adds to your protection. But I showed you that I created that backup task for music. So now it's just simply a matter of right-clicking on it, going to backup, and telling it I want to do a full backup on the music drive. So we'll let that run. It gets to about 5 or 10% where it goes out there and it's counting the number of files to backup. And then it'll start the backup. So we'll come back to that. I'm going to go full screen here because, again, I want to impress upon people how important backups are. Especially if you're responsible for a client's data, hell, even your own data. I mean, we accumulate a lot of stuff going through our lives, kids' pictures, family photos, that kind of thing, video of your kids. I do a lot of video editing, and I have to have a lot of storage to keep those videos, even with 1080p. You can imagine how it would be if I was doing 4K video. That's not going to happen. But I'm doing 1080p at least. So it's very important that you have good backups of your data at all times. So I cannot emphasize again, and there's no excuse not to have backups. Backups, hard drives are cheap. The backup software is only $40. You can even get backup software that's free. You could use the backup software that's built into Windows if you don't have an environment like I do. So don't forget this. Your backups are very, very important. And like I said, I happen to use EaseUS. I just find it easy. It was easy to install. It doesn't have a lot of fluff to it. It's very simple. You go in there and you can do a backup. You can do an incremental, full, whatever your heart's desire, and you set it basically and forget it. Now, a lot of people would argue, why don't you just set up one backup job? Well, I don't, because sometimes I just want to backup whatever, sometimes, like, for example, my music and videos, they don't change that often. So I'm able to segment that backup and do it by itself without having to back up everything else. So you see, that's where the logic comes from in that. So again, there is no good excuse for not having backups. People that lose data, I feel real sorry for them. But my first question is, you didn't, think to back up this data. You're taking a chance. And there were times when I was an IT guy, I didn't take backups very seriously. Backups are the one thing that keep me up at night. If I don't, it's the first thing I check for a client in the morning to make sure their backups went off successfully. And if I have any problem with backups, I don't sleep well. So, and based on some past videos we've done, I've had a couple of clients that we've used these external drive housings. They just didn't work out very well. That's why we've now gone to an internal device, and I have built a custom built PC right behind me to handle these backup jobs, and then I test the hell out of it before I dump it onto the customer. So now you're probably wondering why I'm showing you backups in my home office. Well, there's a reason for that, and I'll discuss that next. So let's go over and look at our backup, and sure enough, our music backup has completed. Weren't that many files in there to back up. Now, one thing this doesn't do, and maybe I just don't have it set up right, but I don't see where it tells you the backup size. And I can't right-click on it and get the backup size either. So that's one little small complaint, but it's not really a big deal. Like I say, here's the backup there. And you can't double click on it or see the image size. So that's one little caveat you want to be aware of. So this is our Exponology NAS unit, and again, sorry for the kind of janky camera work. This drive, it's a 3x5. In other words, it takes up 3 5¼ inch slots and allows you to fit 5 3.5 inch drives in it. And this one is the old one I used on this Exponology, and I need to swap that out for a toolless design. There's nothing I hate more than having to, if I have to remove or replace a hard drive, is to take the tray out and then have to take the screws out, and then put the new hard drive, it's time consuming and a pain in the ass. So we have purchased, we have another drive caddy that we're going to put into this unit. That'll be in an upcoming video. I'll take you step by step how we do that, and it's time for that Exponology NAS to get a good cleaning anyway, so that'll make for a good video upcoming. So this is the unit we'll be replacing that drive, those drive trays with. This is the one I got from I forgot the name of it. It'll come up here in a minute, but it's a toolless, trayless design. So basically you just open the drive tray and you slide the hard drive in, and you don't need to mess with any screws or anything like that. It's got a little lever system, and then you have the ability to lock it. You can even turn drives on and off through the front panel of this unit, and it's I think it's a Sybase is the brand name. It's another 3x5. They're available in a 3x2 and a 3x4. I'm sorry, a 3x4 and a 3x3 as well. And that just gives you the idea of some of the connections on the back. Your 5 serial ATA connectors. And then you have the ability to turn the activity light on the front or turn it off, and put the fan on automatic or high. And then it even has a warning alarm system. So if the temperature, if I can switch to the left here, if the temperature goes over a certain temperature degree, you can have an alarm on. It'll buzz at you if the temperature were to get too high for those hard drives. So it's an excellent drive cage to have. If you're going to build a NAS, a DIY NAS, you definitely need one of these, in my opinion. And I got a 5 tray just to cover my butt. I call this a Sybase. It's actually a Syba and here's the information on it. I think I paid maybe 80 or 90 bucks for this thing. And these things are well worth it. If you're going to build FreeNAS or you're going to build an unraid system, it just makes sense. If you have an older case that'll give you 3 5.25 inch bays, this thing just really makes a lot of sense. So you can walk up there and swap out a drive if you need to in the event of a drive failure or an upgrade or whatever. It just makes your life so much easier. And I've learned over the years that these things are worth their weight in gold. So there you go, YouTube. That's what I use to back up all my stuff. I think that 4 terabyte drive I got for... There's 2 different models of that drive. One is one is a newer model. This is last year's model. And actually, this is a 7200 RPM drive, but I could have gotten a slower spinning RPM drive. It didn't matter. But what sold me on this one was the price point. I think the other one was 115. Now I got this one for 109. So I went in and got 2 of them for 109 a piece. I couldn't beat that price. I had seriously toyed with the idea, starting to swap out my oldest 2 terabyte drives in my Exponology NAS are 3.5 years old, running time. So what I thought I would do is start swapping out the 2 terabyte drives with 4 terabyte drives. But I really don't see the need for that. I have quite a bit of free space left on my Exponology NAS. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put a hot spare in there, a 2 terabyte hot spare drive. That way if I have any other 2 terabyte drives fail, it'll fail over automatically and correct itself. And then I'll just replace the 2 terabyte drives as I need them. So there you have it. Backups are not that expensive to do and maintain, and frankly, if you don't do backups, you're just playing Russian roulette with your data. And this is why I'm also a strong advocate of keeping all your data on one container, whether it's FreeNAS or Unraid or whatever you prefer to use. Keep it in one place. It just makes it easier to manage your data on your network. So we hope you found this video entertaining and informative as always. Give us a thumbs up down below. Please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. I announced earlier in my rant video on YouTube that we finally reached 1,500 subscribers, and in that time frame we gained 20 more. So thank you all so much for coming on board and supporting us. And we have some very exciting videos coming up concerning Ubiquiti Unify equipment. We're going to be doing some series of videos on there. I have more in the lab series coming. We're actually going to start a Windows lab from scratch, and we're going to cover subnetting and VLANs and that kind of thing. So we got a lot of exciting content come up because this is what I'm into right now. So we got some equipment coming in at the end of the week, but I'll be doing some more videos before then, bringing you up to date on what's going on here at Unky Joe's Playhouse. So thanks again so much for joining us. Come back, see us again. Leave your comments in the comment section. Donate. If you can donate, if you can spare 10 bucks, 5 bucks, whatever, shoot it to my PayPal account. If I get a lot of demand for people saying, hey, I'd prefer to use Patreon over PayPal, that's fine. We can do that as well. But your donations are greatly appreciated. That's how we were able to purchase these hard drives. I've had people approach me on some other, they want to do some other donations, and that's perfectly fine. I'll let you know where to send them if you send me an email at unkyjoesplayhouse@gmail.com. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks so much. We really do appreciate it. All your support has been great. And don't forget, we'll see you on the other side. Happy Turkey Day.